Yeah, good morning. Looking today at one of my favorite albums. Certainly one of my favorite non rock albums. That is Daft Punk's Discovery. You can see this is well, it is I'm not sure it is if there was it's more than one, but it's a Japanese edition. So I have owned this album. This is the third copy I've owned. So the first time I got Discovery was in Thailand like 20 years ago. I was traveling there, and it might still be the same now. I don't know. Probably not, because CDs are not really in vogue. But back then, they'd have these CD, well, not just CD. They'd have kind of media markets with DVDs and CDs and video games that were basically pirated. And you'd go and select the CDs you wanted, and they'd go burn them for you, or sometimes they already have the copy there waiting. But I got a pirated copy of Discovery, and I liked it so much that I bought an actual copy about 2 years later. And then whatever. I think I actually still have the pirated copy, just the disc, not the case, somewhere in one of the folders I've got. But anyway, I bought this secondhand in 2018 in Japan. Um, I think it would have been about $10 New Zealand. But you can see the original Discovery looks like that. So I'm sure if you own it, you recognize that. Which is I've always that's quite cool. The kind of a visual effect on the Daft Punk. It's almost like it's done with mercury. They've made and then with the kind of colors underneath. That's a really awesome, simple but impressive cover art. The black background, kind of like it's almost like the rainbow kind of colors. You can see a bit of red, yellow, green, purple, blue up there, and then contrast with the silver on black. It's really pretty awesome. And then the slipcase is obviously associated with the videos that they did for this album. We're going to talk about that in a bit, but they ended up making a film to go along as a companion piece for the album that featured these guys. It's a kind of an alien band. The movie was called Interstellar 5555, and that was he is the was the inspiration for the movie. His name was forgive me for a second while I have a look. Leiji Matsumoto, who was a famous Japanese animator, manga, anime creator, and he was a big inspiration for this movie. That's him there. And I just found out. We'll talk about this again because I'll talk about the movie a bit after I talk about the album. He just died just over a month ago, February 2023. It's kind of weird how, because I remember seeing him. He features on the start of the movie. Him and the two guys from Daft Punk are talking about it, and he looked quite old at that time. So I just assumed I would have died over the last 20 years since this album was released. And lo and behold, I just look at the Wikipedia article this morning and see he died February 2013. Sorry, 2023. So yeah, he was February 13th, 2023. So just over a month ago, he was 85 years old. I'll come back and talk about the movie a little bit towards the end of this video. But first of all, the album, because the album is pretty great, in my opinion. Even though this is a second hand, it's in perfect condition, as new. Um, you can see this was put out by Toshiba EMI. It was put out by Virgin, I think, most other countries. I think EMI and Virgin have got some sort of relationship. I'm not sure exactly. There's a couple of cracks here on the back. I think that's happened from me. It wasn't like that when I bought it, because I had to transport this in my bag back to where I was living after I left Japan. I was there on holiday, and then again when I moved back to New Zealand. So it's been transported halfway around the world in two or three different times. So it's it's probably weathered a fair amount of damage. But anyway, it's yeah, this the like I said, the Japanese edition. This came out in 2001, so this is now 22 years old. And for me, I don't know. Beyond that, I just love this album. Almost every song on it, I love, and it's almost a perfect album. It had so many connections to so many experiences in my life over the last 22 years, good and bad. And it's yeah, it's one of those big albums for me. It's one of the ones that I kind of, if I put a list of together of say 10 or 20 albums that not just my favorite albums, but are important in my life, this would be on it. So, as we usually have with Japanese releases, we have these kind of an insert of liner notes. Um, oh, look, they got some instructions on how to access the Daft Club. A lot of these things included in the Japanese editions weren't included on um, the releases in other non-Japanese countries. So often they'll have a bonus song. They don't actually have one on this disc, but yeah. And then the liner notes that maybe you've seen before is just a picture of the band. So of course, famously, they have been masked for their career. So during a homework era, they had just kind of other kinds of masks. Then from Discovery onwards, they adopted these robot masks, which I think is pretty cool. For a band, I don't actually know what that is. It's kind of like lights, blurred lights. Daft Punk are pretty universally loved, aren't they? They're the kind of band that not many people go, oh, I hate Daft Punk. They're kind of respected critically, but also they've got a lot of fans around the world. And they crafted a pretty amazing career. Very Everything seemed very deliberate, didn't it? Everything they did, from their image, obviously their image was deliberate, the whole mask thing. Some people say, well, that was a kind of a gimmick. Well, I guess, but it was a good gimmick. It worked. Their design aesthetic, then the different sounds of each album had its own individual atmosphere and sound and kind of thing around it. And yeah, so if we look at the track list, so almost every song, you kind of think, well, was that a single? Because there's so many great songs in it. But I think One More Time was the first single. One more time. Um, I'm not going to describe the song in depth, musically, but in general, the album is kind of like it got that French house sound, but they incorporate kind of like a rock structure to it, and it's got rock elements. Got guitar solos and other instrumentation. Got some disco. I guess French house in general does take a lot of disco influence, doesn't it? Post disco, I've seen written about it before. Um, so here they say French house, disco, post disco. Okay, well, there you go. Um, but I definitely think they try to put some rock into it, at least structurally. They said that for them, this is a concept album. If we forget about the movie for a second, it was represents the time in their life between 1975 and 1985. So I think the two guys, who was it, Guy and Thomas, were, I think one was born in 1975 and the other was, oh yeah, okay, so Thomas Bangalter was born in 1975 and Guy Manuel de Homem Cristo was also born in 1974. Okay, so the first 10 years of their life, the music they listened to, the movies they saw, the TV programs, children's cartoons, society around them in general, they said that this album represents that, kind of tries to put that feeling out there for other people to understand the nostalgia or images and feelings they get from that period. And they said they wanted to really put out music that reminded them of a time when they interacted with music as just music without analysis or, they both actually learned music in that when they're in their childhood. Like I think they both started playing piano or other instruments quite early, around 5 or 6 years old. But the point is, as fans, they were interacting with the music as just fun music, as you do when you're a kid. You don't really think, well, what genre is this? What's that sound? What's that? It's just, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And it's, I guess, lots of things in childhood are like that, aren't they? And as adults, we kind of overcomplicate things because we want to maybe make them more interesting to ourselves. But in doing that, we lose a little bit of the magic. Uh, Aerodynamic as an instrumental, it's got that really awesome guitar solo. Digital Love uh, got a good vocal on it, and that's also got a good guitar solo in that. And when I say guitar solo, it's like kind of a processed, almost keyboard guitar sounding. Like they also use a lot of vocoders on their voices, and I think some of it's the guys from Daft Punk use it. So the vocals, they had a guy called Rom Anthony and another guy called was it Thomas or Evan or something like that, and they they added vocals. That the two French guys, the Daft Punk themselves, they added vocals as well. So Rom Anthony was One More Time and Too Long, and Todd Edwards. Sorry, what did I say? I didn't say that. He does Face to Face. They are both involved in the garage house scene, garage house producers, and also did vocals to other music as well in that time. Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, which obviously is like almost like a very robotic vocal on it. Um, when I see a lot of the names of these songs, I can't help but kind of associate with them with the movie, with the animated movie that goes along with it, because I've seen it so many times. Crescendos, Night Vision's kind of an ambient song, very quiet. It's got like a heartbeat, drum beat to it. Boom, 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 boom. Superheroes, that's a great song. Something About Us is a down tempo song with a vocal, again, very processed vocal. They don't use naked vocals at all. It's always processed, put through a kind of vocoder or other kind of processing. It's kind of a sad, melancholic sound song. Voyager, I think, is my favorite song on the album. It's an instrumental, as in there's no vocals on it, but it's got a great bass line, and it's kind of like a driving song. I don't mean driving, you listen to it when you're driving a car, although you could do that. I mean as in it moves, feels like it's moving you forward. Some songs you listen to and it feels like it's pushing you along, pushing you through to the end of the song, like it's trying to get somewhere. Some songs just kind of sound like a lazy river, don't they? You're kind of meandering along, and some songs stay in one place, or some songs ascend upwards, or all the kinds of feelings you get. Well, the Voyager really sounds like it's pushing you forward into something. There's also this kind of electric harp part. Verdisco, which apparently is a pun. Is that what a pun, or like it's very disco? Verdisco. Face to Face, I like that song as well. That's like a real, like, kind of a dance pop song. You can imagine that could be changed in some way and release as a dance pop song and be quite successful with another artist. Too Long ends the album. So the album's about an hour long. But like I said, I don't want to go through and describe every song in depth. It's as a whole, it's just such a perfect grouping of songs. Even if you can't quite capture the concept they're trying to put across, the music stands on its own. It's just quality songwriting, production in every aspect. They use some samples throughout. I kind of looked through the list of samples, nothing that I really recognize. Like I saw they sampled something from Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow is an artist where I know the name. I've heard the name a lot in my life, but I don't. I'm sure if you played some Barry Manilow to me, I'd say, "Oh, is that Barry Manilow?" But if you asked me to name a Barry Manilow song off the top of my head, I couldn't do that because yeah, I don't know any of his music like that. So it was a pretty successful album from my memory, as in the I saw the videos a lot before I even saw the movie. I saw the videos independently. I saw the video for Digital Love, I remember, and One More Time. It was played a lot in clubs. I remember that was, this was 2001 when I was about 20. It was when I was starting to go out, to town and bars and clubs. Not that I was ever a big nightclub person, but I remember they used to play songs from this a lot, in DJ sets. Obviously, it was mixed together with other stuff, and often they would change it in some way. But it seemed to be big in there, and their popularity seemed to grow in that time. They seem to be kind of like a band that, from Homework to this, they seem to kind of level up in popularity and in people knowing them. So around the same time, they released, like I said, a movie to go along with this. I think it was a couple of years later, not exact, because the album was 2001. I didn't see the movie until about 2005. Like I said, I'd seen the little video, like they released one for One More Time and Digital Love, which were part of the story, but I'd never seen the whole movie. So somehow I learned about that they had made a whole movie, and I ordered it from overseas. That's how much I wanted to see it. And like I said, the movie was called Interstellar 555, the story of Secret star system, all use 5 and 7S. And it's basically the story of this band or group who are aliens, and they get kidnapped by some human and brought to Earth to be a human. He kind of like changes them into humans, and he wipes their memory, and they are just almost like a robots performing and making him famous and successful and money, and they don't know what's happening. And one of their alien counterparts, friends, I don't know, it doesn't never really fully explain who the guy is. He tries to rescue them when they're getting kidnapped. He's in his spaceship trying to rescue them, but he doesn't. But then he manages to get to Earth, still in his alien form, and he sets about trying to find them and rescuing them on Earth. Um, that's the band there. It doesn't actually show the hero guy. Sorry, I don't know their names. It doesn't. I should say that the movie is completely without dialogue. It's just the music playing, the tracks from Discovery, while the story is being shown over the top of it. But it works. You don't need any what do you call it? Jesus, dialogue. You don't need any dialogue. Um, okay, so the names, it says Stella. That's Stella. Arpeggius is the guitarist. That's him, I think. Beryl is the drummer. That's the little guy. And Octave is the keyboardist. And Ship is the hero. He's not on here. They should show him. He's important. And Earl de Darkwood is the bad guy, the human who kidnaps them. Anyway, he produces music, they perform it, and they become the biggest band in the world. They sell millions of copies. They're famous everywhere. Everyone loves them. They're playing sold out shows, but they're getting exhausted because he's like almost like a slave driver. Just like I said, he's controlling their brains in some evil, nefarious way, and this all kind of goes. The music is going along with this. I remember, for example, Night Vision is a scene where they are in a hotel, exhausted. They're like autographing pictures, to give to fans, and they're just absolutely exhausted. Then we get to Superheroes and High Life. That's where Shit comes and rescues them. They're playing a show, and he comes to he kind of like he skydives into the concert with a rocket pack, and then he comes on stage and he breaks the spell that the bad guy has over the group, his friends, and he gets them, except for Stella, the girl. She gets left behind, but then eventually they get her as well. But in the ensuing battle between the bad guy and his henchmen, who it turns out are robots, um, he gets shot. Shep, the hero, gets shot while he's rescuing these guys. And so then we get to Something About Us, which is, like I said, the kind of the sad, down-tempo, slightly romantic song. And that implies there's some sort of relationship between Stella and Shep, the hero, because they're kind of like in this dream world, but Shep is slowly dying because he's been shot and they can't save him. And then at the end of the song, I think he is dead. But he's like, yeah, I don't exactly know. Maybe she knew him back on their planet and they were lovers or something. I don't know, but it's quite sad. Then we get to Voyager, which is maybe that's one of the reasons why I love the song so much. The part of it, they take the body of Shep out to the countryside and they bury him, and then they I'm getting emotional talking about it. And as they bury him at the end of it, as the songs get into that, but I was saying before about the electric harp, it's kind of like an ascending arpeggio harp. His soul emerges from the grave as kind of like stars, or like, and then they're like, it's like, oh, he's okay. His even though he's dead, his soul will go back to our alien planet. He kind of like basically like looks at everyone and says, it's okay, don't worry, I'll be all right, guys. But you guys have got to try to get back to our planet as well. You got to get the ship ready and to fly back. And then he zooms off into the galaxy. And it's all very sad, but also everything's going to be okay kind of feeling. And then the last songs, they battle against the bad guy. They let Earth know, the humans know that they're aliens and that they need to get back. And basically, it's showing that all humans aren't bad, that some of them, the governments of the world, unite to kind of get the aliens back to their home world. So they defeat the bad guy, Earl de Darkwood, and they finally get back to their home planet. I probably explained it not very well, but I love that movie. Now, I remember at the time I was working at a restaurant. This is back in 2005, and one of my friends who worked there, she liked Daft Punk as well. And I lent the movie to her, and she watched it, and she absolutely loved it. She got it. I guess she's a big Daft Punk fan. Fast forward, I don't know how many years, 10 years. My now wife, one night we were watching movies, and I said, "Oh, let's watch this Interstellar 555 movie." And she's open to watching most things. She's like, "Okay, yeah." And I put it on. She got about, I don't know, halfway through it. She's like, I can't watch this, sorry. And I realized, I think you have to be a fan of the music to appreciate it. Maybe because there's no dialogue at all. I don't know. I thought the movie stood by itself and that anyone could like it. And it's a cartoon, it's animation. Maybe that's another reason why she didn't like it. I don't know. But I read this, what do you call it? What a critic said. They said lots of people said it was great, blah blah, and then someone said, fine, if you like the band, you'll be treated to some cartoons playing over the top of your favorite Discovery album. For everyone else, just Daft. So maybe that's true. I don't know. I can't see it, but yeah. I was saying that the guy who inspired this, Leiji Matsumoto, he was the guy who made, if you're familiar with Battleship Yamato and Galaxy Express 99, those were Japanese animes from, I think, the 70s or 80s or 1970s. Okay, so 1975, which just that period I was talking about. So Battleship Yamato 1975 and Galaxy Express 99 was from 1977. So again, right in that period that Daft Punk was trying to capture with Discovery. If you look at the animation of those two I just named, Galaxy Express 999 and Battleship Yamato, it's very, you can see how this is directly inspired, almost like a tribute to those works. So Leiji Matsumoto was a overseer or supervisor producer of this movie. He didn't direct it, but he kind of oversaw it and acted almost as like kind of a yeah, like I don't know what the word is, an inspiration. So yeah, I've talked there a lot about both the music and the movie because this is a special edition and it kind of shows the movie. I thought I should talk about the movie, but it really is. Discovery is such a great album. And I talk about the ratings I see. All Music Guide, the one that I usually think is most accurate, gave it 5 out of 5. Pitchfork, as usual, up their own ass, 6.4 out of 10. Fuck off. Everyone else gave it 9 out of 10. The Guardian gave it 2 out of 5. But anyway, I think in hindsight, 20 some years later after that album was released, it is regarded a classic. Uh, Daft Punk went on to further success. They've of course broken up now, but such a brilliant album, and I think a brilliant movie as well. I recommend trying to find it and watch it if you can. Maybe you'll get emotional like me during Voyager or something about us and Voyager. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a good Friday or whatever day it is where you are.